Hello everyone to chapter number 3. Today we're going to start ramping up with the final parts of the creation of our game's asset. Now, before we jump into the axe, I want to cover the general process that we're going to be doing because I feel like it's a lot easier to understand all of the steps that we're going to be doing and why we're going to be doing them before we actually jump and go through them. So this is the original dice that we did. You're welcome to do this exercise as well if you want to do it. And what we're going to do is we're going to explain the three things that we're going to be doing in the next couple of chapters. So first thing, we need to create something called a low poly. What do I mean by this? Well, as you can remember, when we did this dice right here, we applied a modifier, which was a subdivision modifier. And if we take a look at the divisions, you're going to see that we have a lot of divisions. Now, remember, let me turn on this is screencast real quick. There we go. We can go over here and turn on the statistics, and you're gonna see that this die is made out of 40,000 triangles. Imagine we have a video game and we do a casino scene, and we have hundreds of these guys. We cannot have 40,000 triangle dice on our room because it's gonna crash the engine. So one of the things that we do as game artists is we optimize these elements by creating something called a bakes. We transfer all of the information from this high poly object to a low poly version of the same object. Now, to do this, we need to recreate pretty much the exact same die that we had before, as you can see right here, but in a more low poly version. So in this case, this is just a 108 triangles side. It's just a basic cube with a couple of bevels. Once we have the low poly, which is the thing that we're going to be focusing during chapter 3, we're going to be creating the low poly of the axe. Once we have this, we have to go through a process called the UV process, where we create UVs, which is a 2D representation of the 3D object, to transfer all of the information from the high poly into this low poly. This is very important. We do not do UVs for high polys. We do UVs for low polys only, which is this element right here. Once we have one low poly with UVs, which is this one, and one high poly with no UVs, which is this one, we export both of them, and we're going to be using a different software. I'm going to explain how this software works later on, don't worry, but we're going to be using this software right here called Substance Painter to do the baking process. We could do the baking inside of Blender, but it's really convoluted, to be honest, and right now Substance Painter is like the D3D like standard for everything. Again, once we hit the texture, I'll show you, and there's actually ways in which you can get the software for free, so don't worry. Legal options, by the way. So we're going to go to this option right here, which is the baking options, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to load in the high poly, which is this one right here. I'm just going to do a couple of changes here very quickly. There we go. That's it. And once I hit bake selected textures, what's going to happen, as you can see right here, is we're going to get the projection. We definitely need to increase this. We're going to get the projection of all of these elements into our cube. So now, as you can see, we got this. Look at this. Beautiful. We get this low poly object that looks and behaves similar to how the high poly object would be. This, of course, is fake. Like all of this, like that little dot that you see right there, that's actually a dot that does not exist. If we move the camera this way, you can see that it's perfectly flat. So even though the hole does not exist, that doesn't mean that we cannot use this and texture it. And again, if you see it on the game, if you get a couple of this on the table, you're not even going to notice that they're not real like holes that you have on your object. This is the way in which we work, and all of this information is going to be saved into something called the normal map, which I can show you right here. There we go. So this like sort of purple greenish, reddish, bluish thing, it's called the normal map. And this normal map is the one that's in charge of capturing the information of how the object is going to be shaded. And what I want to do here real quick is I actually want to export these textures. Let's export them into our files real quick. Let's go here, Axe Project, got my scenes, there we go. And we're just going to do that. So right now it's exporting a lot of textures that we're not going to be using. I just want to use the normal map, which is this one right here. And this texture right here is the one that we can use inside of Blender to see how the object would look on a game. So I'm going to move this guy to the side, and I'm going to go to the shading options over here. Select this object right here. I'm going to create a new material for that object. Let's change the color just to like have a better look of the element. There we go. And then the only thing I need to do is I need to bring in a normal element to this normal camera right here. So I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to look for normal map. There we go. And this normal map is going to be connected to the normal element right here on our object. We've talked about this before, not here on the shading thing. So again, if this is a little bit too confusing, don't worry. We're going to cover this in depth once we get into the texturing part, which is going to be chapter 4. But for now, we're just going to do this. And I'm just going to drag and drop this texture right here. Now, this texture needs to be changed to a raw texture. This is for color management purposes. And then we just plug this in into the color right here. So as you can see now, even though, well, actually this is like a wrong color to select, let's go for like a red color. There we go. So now if we go to the layout mode and we go to a material preview, you can see that both of them look very, very similar. Of course, you're never going to have the exact same result as your high poly, because this is real geometry that we're seeing right here, and this is fake geometry. But as you can see from afar, it's very difficult to tell which one is which, and we're getting a very, very nice result overall. So this is the process, this is the baking process that we're going to be doing. We need to, again, create our high polys, which we already have, and then generate a new low poly that matches the silhouette of the high poly as close as possible. Once we have those things, on the low poly version, we're going to generate UVs, which are all of these things that we see right here, which are going to be the places where we're going to be projecting all the information from our high poly. And once we do that, then we go into the texturing department. We're going to be using Substance Painter to generate these bakes, texture our axe so that it looks amazing, and we're going to be ready to bring it back into Blender for some final renders. So yeah, that's it, my friends. That's the whole baking process. Again, chapter 3, we're going to be focusing on the retopology process, on generating this low poly mesh for our element. And on chapter 4, we're going to be texturing with UVs and Substance Painter. Chapter 5 is going to be the final chapter, which is going to be, of course, a rendering. So that's it for now, my friends. Hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next video.